Let's do this. The Cult of Hockey podcast by the faithful and for the faithful. I'm David Staples of the Edmonton Journal, and I'm here tonight with Bruce McCurdy. Hey, Bruce.
Hey, David, how are you doing tonight?
Doing pretty good. It was a rather non-humdinger, non-thrilling game. Like for a 7-2 win, it was a very, very tepid affair. Not much going on, and we're going to get at some of the reasons for that in our podcast, our Two Good Things, Two Bad Things, and Two Numbers podcast about Edmonton's 7-2 win over the Montreal Canadiens. The grade A shots, preliminary 13-5 for the Oilers. So it's not like the score. Well, it flatters the Oilers a little bit, but it reflects the play somewhat. Montreal had very, very little to give in this game, and the Oilers stomped them on the scoreboard. Bruce, what's your first good thing?
Yeah, I had trouble grading this game, David, because it was such an unusual game. It was like they were almost not playing against an NHL opponent. And especially in the nets where Montreal wasn't getting many saves. And so it was, the Oilers did what they needed to do and they comfortably won. My first good thing is balanced scoring. Four lines tonight's game. The first line scored once, the second line scored twice, the third line scored three times, and the fourth line scored once. But they did score the late one, and they deserved it. They had a strong game, that fourth line. Moreover, the six defensemen, every one but one of them had at least one assist in this game. So the Oilers are getting contributions from up and down the lineup, and it was a fairly solid, not perfect team performance overall, and they were clearly the superior team on the ice, and didn't make any mistake in terms of pocketing the 2 points that they had to have from this game.
Fair enough. All right, Bruce. My first good thing will be puck luck. I mean, the first three goals. You got to get some of that. That's some of that puck luck. Some of it's good stuff, isn't it? It's really good stuff. And I mean, the first one is a Bouchard kind of puts it at the net, and it hits Kane, and it goes in. The Oilers don't seem to score a lot of goals like that, if you ask me. I could be wrong, but I just think they score less than other teams. But they got two of them tonight because the second one comes the same way. It's put at the net, and it goes in off Hyman. And then the third one is even more lucky because essentially it's a very nice play by Warren Fogle, puts it to Leon Draisaitl in the slot, and Draisaitl puts it at the net, and it goes off. I think it takes two deflections before it goes in, if I'm not mistaken. Anyway, there's a deflection or two there, and it goes in the net. And voila, Bruce, it's 3-0, and the game's essentially over. I mean, you can come back from 3-0 in the NHL, but it's pretty rare. So 3 goals where the bounces went their way, and early in the game, got that monkey off their back of not getting the first goal, and so that's all. That's all good, but it was all somewhat anticlimactic. Those goals, like puck luck, is great to have. It's fantastic to have. It was crucial in the last game when Bouchard had some luck in getting a goal, but this was just bang, 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 bang. 3 goals, 3 good bounces, and you're ahead, and you get a win. Much needed victory.
3 goals in a minute and 47 seconds. And the Kane goal, I'm not sure. Did you think it hit his foot or his stick? Like different angles seem to show it different ways.
Yeah.
And then Hyman tipped home the second goal. And I was trying to remember when was the last time the Oilers scored 2 goals in the same game on deflections. And the nearest I could narrow it down was that I think it was in AD and not BC, but it's been a long, long, long time since the Oilers were successful on deflections from the low slot to that degree. They give up way more goals on deflections than they score themselves. It's been a weakness on this team for a while. I have a feeling that may be about to change for the better with all these big forwards that the Oilers have got cluttering up the slot. all of a sudden. Now they're getting their healthy bodies back. And of course, they added Evander Kane, who made his Oilers debut tonight.
They really do have some big guys there. Kane is quite a again, like don't really remember. I focus so much on the Oilers when I watch these games. Like Kane's game doesn't stand out to me, even though he's been in the NHL so long. He's a big guy. He's kind of a big hulking guy out there, and Hyman's big, and Fogle's big enough, and Puljujärvi's big. So yeah, there's a lot of big forwards who can get in front of the net. Of course, Leon Draisaitl's big, but he doesn't screen the goalie so much. But they have that going on. They have that aspect in their game. What is your second good thing, Bruce, would you say?
I'm going to single out one player whose game I really liked tonight, and I know you're going to do the same. And my choice is Warren Fogle. I thought he really had it going on tonight. I thought he was the best player on his line with Draisaitl and Puljujärvi, three big guys. And that line is going to be a load for other teams to try and handle. I didn't think Puljujärvi was really near his best tonight. He had his moments, but Draisaitl, scored 2 goals and he had a decent enough game. But I thought Fogle was really the driver on that line. He was all over the puck. He was just in hot pursuit of it, creating, hassles and popping pucks loose. And he made some really good passes. Like he sent Leon in on a clear breakaway in the first period that was stopped. And he did earn the primary assist on both of Draisaitl's goals. And he's starting to show up more as a passer. He's made some really nice passes these last couple of weeks, Warren Fogle. And I just thought he brought his game tonight and he was effective. And I gave him an 8 for a great game because that's how I saw it.
That was one of his better games as an Oiler. And it's interesting because if he can get that job done with Draisaitl and Puljujärvi, if he can get it done as a top 9 forward with the Oilers, whoever he's with, but especially if he's with either McDavid or Draisaitl, that opens up Hyman to play with Nugent Hopkins. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people said the second Evander Kane joins the team, he's the third best player, the third best forward. And I beg to differ. Like I'll need to be what I'll say is I'll need to be convinced of that.
Yes, that's fair.
Because Zach Hyman, to my eye, is an extremely strong hockey player. He's just a really, really excellent winger, I think, in the NHL, the modern NHL, any NHL. He can skate, he makes plays, he works hard, he defends, he battles in front of the net, he wins, he pucks protects. Smart player. If Evander Kane is as good as Zach Hyman, that'd be fantastic. But having Fogle play like that enables you to have then Zach Hyman with Ryan Nugent-Hopkins and whoever else turns out to be Zach Kassian, maybe Dylan Holloway down the road on a third line. And suddenly, that's the best. Is that the best two-way player that the Nuge has ever centered? I think he Taylor Hall was a spectacular player, and Jordan Eberle was a very good winger, and he was also with Benoit Pouliot, who had his fans, and Milan Lucic played with them for some time, and but Hyman is, I think, the best two-way winger Nuge has ever played with, and that can make a big difference to Ryan Nugent-Hopkins at center. I think that can make him make that work. So, and I'll just segue from that, Bruce, to say that my other good thing was Zach Hyman. I mean, he made some fantastic plays. His pass to Nugent-Hopkins. In the slot, I think it was like a cross ice pass on that goal. That was just fantastic. And Nuge scored a wonderful goal there. What's his other play? We got his final goal where I like this goal in a lot of ways. Nuge wins the faceoff. He puts it back to Nurse. I really like Nurse's play because I think he reads the play and sees that Hyman is going to spin off. And if he just puts it around the boards, he's going to get Hyman moving with the puck below the net. That's the play. It's perfectly executed. Hyman takes the puck and wheels out into the slot and uses the defenseman as a screen to score. So excellent play from him. You look a little distracted there, Bruce. What's
Oh, I'm just watching Calgary and Vancouver here.
Oh, okay.
Hoping for Calgary to drop some points tonight. Oilers need to get some
Yes.
more help on the out of town scoreboard. Anyway, my bad. I'll stay focused.
Oh, that's okay. It is, it's weird because the Oilers have all these games in hand, which kind of
Mm-hmm.
puts pressure on you, right? Even though they now have the second best winning percentage in the Pacific, they are they're still points behind, right? They still got to win, and four straight wins though, right? That's
Yep.
not
Yep.
not too shabby.
John Gibson stole 2 more points for Anaheim and Ottawa today. He's been doing that regularly lately.
Yeah,
Anyway, yeah, Hyman on both the Nuge goal and then his own goal. What struck me was the extended possession that he had both times. It wasn't like he had the puck and then he passed it off or he shot it. He actually sort of went into the corner with it, fought off a guy or two, came out of the corner still with it, and then made a play. A great bullet pass to Nuge. I thought that was a really big goal because Edmonton was playing quite poorly at that point. Montreal just closed the gap to 3-1. And I'm thinking, if Montreal scores again here, and then when Edmonton reopened the 3-goal lead to 4-1, it was the hockey didn't get any better for a while, but the lead was safe the rest of the way. And that was a really terrific play by Hyman. I bet he had the puck for the better part of 10 seconds. And then his own goal, more of the same, where he actually, sort of made a couple of plays before he finally came out and buried a shot. And his patience with the puck and his ability to maintain it and then do something with it is impressive.
he's a really good player, and I bet you every center on the Edmonton Oilers is thinking, could I have Zach Hyman as my winger? So we'll see who wins out. We'll see who wins the struggle. I mean, there's other good wingers, but
Yeah, there are.
there's other good wingers,
And,
and we'll see.
uh,
Kane looked at this was Evander Kane's first game, and
mhm,
he looked really. I thought he looked really rusty. Like
I did too.
he didn't look like he was in sync at all. He looked like he was in preseason form, which is exactly where he's at probably. So it's going to take a while for him to get rolling.
He played 5 AHL games about a month and a half ago,
Yeah,
and a whole lot of stuff has gone down since then, including a positive COVID test, which would have taken him off the ice for a while, and then all of these shenanigans have been going on. Who knows how much practice he got? And was he off skating on his own or against the scrubs on the Vancouver Giants, or what was he doing? And he did look rusty tonight. That said, he came out and scored the crucial first goal of the game, which the Oilers have not had for the last 44 days since the last time the Oilers scored first, way back on December 16th. And uh, I'm going to take a little tiny bit of credit for that one myself because I suggested in the game day post to Evander Kane that if he wanted to make a great first impression, he should score the first goal tonight. And lo and behold, he must have read that because he went out and did it.
I don't know, Bruce. I just think you're shaping the simulation with your wants. You know, your
Yeah. Well,
your reality
it seemed
bending.
like a good idea at the time, and then to see it actually happen, it kind of made me laugh and hoot at the same time because it's been a long time since the Oilers led a game 1-0.
What is your bad thing?
Yeah, I guess I'm going to go with a little bit of sloppy play that began in the last 45 seconds of the first period when the Oilers were just getting to the finish line with a 3-0 lead, and they had an absolutely dreadful shift where they could not get out of their own end. The one time they came out clean, Evan Bouchard made a brutal pass right to the other team, and they poured back in, and there was all kinds of just chaos in Edmonton's zone. Petrie had a chance that he just missed the net, and they finally did get a shot with like 1 second to go in the first period. And the second period that carried over in the first um, probably 10 minutes of the second. And Montreal did get that goal on the bad rebound by Skinner, but some bad play surrounding it. And then Nuge got it back. So, there was no damage done, but it was like the Oilers got sloppy because they had the big lead. And nothing drives me more nuts watching a game than seeing sloppy play when really you just got to button it down and you got it. And that stretch of about uh, well, last minute of the first and the first several minutes of the second was poor hockey by Edmonton. They got away with it, and in the end, no damage done, but it was not pretty to watch.
So loser points for the Kings and the Sharks tonight, and the Flames beat
Oh, in overtime.
Vancouver 1-0. So that it's awfully kind of early to be looking at the standings. We're 40 games into it, but that's what happens when you go on like a 73 game losing streak early in the season. Like you put yourself in a hole, and now we're the rest of the year the Oilers are going to be just grinding into the playoffs.
Yeah.
Unless they go on some kind of miraculous run here, but until I don't see that honestly happening, and unless there's some kind of goaltending revelation that occurs with the Oilers, and they get super hot there. My bad thing,
Today's
Bruce.
win was just a matter of keeping up then.
Yeah, well,
But at least they got the win. A loss today
well,
would have been a disaster.
well, they gained a point on both L.A. and San Jose, who are ahead of them in points. Bruce, I think part of the reason that was a weird game to watch was my bad thing is the lack of atmosphere, the lack of a crowd there. And, Quebec will do what they will do with their regulations. They now have probably the strictest regulations on earth other than communist China. So, that's their business. But I'll tell you what, it sure makes for a terrible atmosphere for a hockey game. And I think we forget, like, how weird that year was, and, without the fans. And we were just happy to have hockey, I think, and putting up with it. But man, it takes away from the game. It just seems like dull, boring, no excitement, and this game had that feel to it.
Normally, the Center Bell is a happening place. It's a pretty exciting place to play. The crowd is so responsive and into the game always in Montreal, and no crowd. I mean, this second time this year, the same thing happened in Toronto earlier, but I have to say I noticed it more in Montreal tonight, and it did really subtract from the overall spectacle, especially on Hockey Day in Canada. That's not how Hockey Day in Canada is supposed to work, where they play games that nobody can come to.
Fingers crossed, we'll soon be moving into a new phase. We'll see what happens. All right. Your number, Bruce.
My number is 17, and that is the number of the 18 Oilers skaters who were plus players in this game. Montreal had one even strength goal and one power play goal, and Edmonton had 7 even strength goals. And every player except Ryan McLeod, who wasn't on the ice in the last minute when his regular line mates, Derek Ryan and Devon Shore, combined on quite an excellent goal to finally convert the touchdown for the first time all season for Edmonton. That's the first time all year they reached 7 goals with all of their firepower. And the funky thing, of course, is that their shining star of firepower, Connor McDavid, was held off the score sheet entirely. He did get a +1 on that opening goal, but it was an odd game that the whole team contributed to, as opposed to one or two big guys taking it over and finding a way to get it done in the key time. This was a team victory from top to bottom, and 17 plus players is something you don't see very often.
Yeah. Yeah, McDavid, no points. I mean, it's interesting. For years, we've heard this is like 2 players and nobody else. You just can't say that anymore about the Edmonton Oilers. They've got lots of players now, especially up front on the attack. This is the clearest example, I think, since Milan Lucic signed in Edmonton of McDavid's allure in terms of drawing players to Edmonton. The Evander Kane thing. Now, maybe someone will say the Oilers are really the only team in on this. We've heard from Elliot Friedman that the NHL was unhappy. I guess the teams were going after at Evander Kane's signature on a contract. I don't know what they would expect, honestly, but they were apparently unhappy about that. And there were rumors of a lot of teams kicking the tires pretty seriously: Tampa Bay, Florida, Washington. And I think Kane's signing here is for one reason, maybe 2. McDavid or Draisaitl. He knows if he doesn't play with McDavid, he'll be playing with Draisaitl. So, yeah, even though Connor McDavid wasn't on the score sheet tonight, he's having an ongoing impact with this franchise. Right. I think Tyson Barrie was another one who's came here on a value contract who wouldn't have otherwise come here. But Kane is definitely in that category, and they if he does turn out, that will be it'll be a real benefit. I think Hyman too, actually. Zach Hyman's another example of someone who would not have been coming here without Connor McDavid. So yeah, that drawing power is starting to have an impact. Kane is the first one. Well, Barrie, you could say, was a value contract. Kane, I think, is the first really super value contract to come out of this. And hopefully, Bruce, there will be many more. Hopefully there'll be a number of, the Kane situation was very strange. But hopefully there'll be a few more where they get really, not just get really good players to come, but get them on the cheap. So we'll see about that.
You see, David, I thought it was a case of that the Oilers could never win a bidding war against any other team. But when a guy actually does decide to sign here, it's because nobody else wanted him.
Yeah. Is that the narrative from
some two sides? That's the two sides of the narrative coin from some directions. Anyway, all of a sudden the Oilers look like they have a top 9. Yeah. After ages of having a top 6, bottom 6 with this huge gulf between the two. And tonight they had not one but 2 $5 million players on their third line.
Which gets to my number, which is $13.8 million. That's the total contract of the third line. So the first line, as it was constituted tonight, $15.8 million. The second line, $12.5 million. And the third line, $13.8 million. So they've invested a fair chunk of change in those three lines. I don't know how that would compare to other teams like top 9 forwards in terms of where that ranks. It's probably pretty high up there because you have McDavid and Draisaitl's big tickets. And then you have Nuge and Hyman are making a fair amount of money as well. But other than that, really, Cassian's next, isn't he? And then there's a lot of guys making, and Fogle. Right. But that's a very expensive third line. But I'll tell you what, if it's like a plus line, each game plus 1 goal or something like that along those lines, that would be pretty fantastic if they were that. But I was trying to think, Bruce, when was the last time the Oilers had 3 lines as good as this? So I guess it's probably the 2006 playoffs, right? Like there's nothing.
2017, arguably, and you'd have to, you'd have to argue pretty hard,
because the third line had Nuge, Pouliot, and Eberle, right? And then was the second line Lucic, Draisaitl, and Slepyshev, essentially?
Well, it was by the end of the playoffs, yeah.
And what he was with McDavid? Maroon?
He was playing with Maroon, and who the heck was the other winger? It was Kajula, was it? So...
Yeah, so there's some kind of firing blanks at a few of those positions.
Yeah. Anyway, Nuge had the 2 most expensive wingers on his line, as it turned out. If you just base it on salary, of the wingers, it would be, if you accept the centers 3 as being centers, Hyman would be the top one, then Cassian, then Fogle, then Kane, then Puljujärvi and Yamamoto. You got a couple of, value ELCs up there, and those guys are playing pretty good for the most part. Yamamoto's been good lately, and he's not got much credit for it, but he's really brought up his what had previously weak totals. He had 8 points in 9 games at one stage, and got another assist tonight, and he's been productive for his salary. And
I like Yamamoto. Yeah, I'm a fan of the player.
Bruce, I think this is pretty balanced lines we saw tonight. I really do.
I like Yamamoto with McDavid. I think that's a good idea. We'll see how Kane fits in. This is, I think, the best group of Oiler forwards. I put them ahead of the 2006 group. The strength of the 2006 group was Pronger and Dwayne Roloffson and net. So they had good forward lines, good two-way checking lines. But we haven't seen forwards like this since 1990 on the Edmonton Oilers, like a group of forwards in the top 3 lines. So this is a pretty special group of players right now,
90,
especially
bring it on.
especially if Kane gets, we'll see. Kane's got to get rolling, right?
Yeah.
He's yet
Yeah.
to. It's going to take a
Well,
little time, and then you hope there's
Sure.
no injuries and all that other stuff. But pretty
Yeah.
darn good.
And you hope the NHL looks the other way at that little elbow he threw at Nick Suzuki tonight. But
Yeah, we'll see.
yeah. Anyway,
All right, so they play next against who? Monday night? What's the Monday night game?
yeah, Ottawa.
Ottawa. Okay.
Ottawa threw the kitchen sink at Anaheim today. Outshot them about 40-20 and lost 2-1 because they couldn't get one by it. Other than the great goal by Tyler Ennis. This is a goal worthy of watching on the highlight, from the long pass up to the fantastic sequence of plays Ennis made to beat John Gibson, which was a very difficult task today. He was the only guy who was able to do it. But we'll see. Ottawa's, well, they showed us here a couple of weeks ago. They're not to be taken lightly. But they'll give Edmonton a lot tougher game than Montreal did at minimum.
I think Yamamoto led the team in time on ice tonight, just one aside.
He did.
Led the forwards, I should say, not the team,
Yep.
but he led the forwards. So that's probably a first for the year. Yeah, they didn't overplay McDavid and Draisaitl, yeah.
Between 12 and 18 minutes, all 12 forwards got, and between 14 and 20 shifts. It was very, very evened out. And of course, the score had a lot to do with that, but the fact that all four lines were effective had to do with that as well.
Alrighty, well, let's leave it there, Bruce. Your game grades are already posted, so
Yep.
For once, you're not up until like 3 a.m.
These 5 o'clock starts on Saturday are a rare blessing.
There you go.
So now I can go eat supper.
All right, well, enjoy your meal. Thanks for talking tonight, Bruce.
All right. Thanks for listening, everyone.
And in the meantime, and in between times, this has been another edition of the Cult of Hockey podcast.